of our work, and the most important part of the report deals with conflicts of interest. I'd like to take a moment and talk about conflicts of interest generally, because I think that there has been a general misapprehension about conflicts of interest in the public. Conflicts of interest are common in everyday life. You have a conflict of interest every time your spouse wants you to come home for dinner and your boss wants you to work late. And the point of a conflict of interest in the public arena or in the business arena is that you're able to identify it and that you're able to assess what that conflict of interest means, and finally that you have a formal way of dealing with it that is going to produce a fair and ethical outcome. Conflicts of interest are not in and of themselves unethical. It's what you do about the conflict of interest. Now, why am I hammering on this? One of the things in the JobsOhio response was that even though we cited them for not having a conflicts of interest policy in place for this time period, they said we had policies in place forbidding unethical conduct. And as far as it goes, that's great. But you can act entirely ethically. You can be the most ethical person in the world and still have a conflict of interest that occurs in the course of your normal business. So the ethics of the matter come with, did you recognize it? Did you do something about it? Now, conflicts of interest have been, different ways have been developed in different walks of life to deal with conflicts of interest. I'm trained as a lawyer, and one of the things that we do in my profession is we have an obligation to disclose to both sides of the transaction, or all sides of the transaction, if it's a multilateral transaction, what the conflict of it is. We have to do it in writing. But actually that can be waived. People can say, yeah, we get that. We get that our interests may not be aligned here, but we trust you, we want to do this deal, we're going to go ahead and go forward. So it can be waived. Another way to cure conflict of interest is recusal. This is typically done in the public realm, where you have a situation where you simply don't participate in that project or that vote or influence the development of the assessment of that decision. And of course, it's possible, and the Chapter 187 of the Ohio Revised Code specifically recognizes this with respect to JobsOhio, that you can have an interest that is so small, a conflict of interest is so small that it doesn't matter. And we had one of those. So we looked at 28 individual situations that might have posed a conflict of interest in the course of our work. That included several that were frankly brought to attention of the public by the news media. It included the ones that were brought up by the Ohio Ethics Commission. And it included, I believe, 8 that we identified through our review of the project files at JobsOhio. For a variety of reasons, we found that there was only one conflict of interest among those. In some instances, the calendar, when you actually got to the dates, the interests did not overlap in time. Therefore, there's no conflict. In some instances, the relationship had terminated in advance. A variety of reasons. The one that we did find was with a director that owned 7.3 shares of Smucker's out of 108 million shares outstanding. If there was ever a situation that fell within the Ohio Revised Code's notion of a de minimis conflict, a conflict too small to make a difference, that is the idea, I think, behind that. 7.3 shares out of 108 million is a vanishingly small interest, and it simply doesn't stand to reason that that would have any deleterious impact on the public interest. So, we did find that the conflicts of interest policy and procedures at JobsOhio during the audit year of 2012 were not sufficiently robust. There were some people with decision-making authority that were not covered by the existing rules or their processes. They actually lacked a formal conflict of interest policy in writing during this period of time. And they lacked really the kind of protections that I would expect to see and that actually occur in every accounting firm, every law firm, you know, a database of interests that you check at particular critical points along the project's development to determine whether those things have shown up as a conflict. Now, we are told by JobsOhio that they have taken subsequent remedial measures and that they have a more robust system in place. That will be a matter for a future review to determine its adequacy. Although there were no conflicts of interest that we noted, other than the one de minimis matter in 2012, the fact of the matter remains that had there been one, the then existing processes could not have been counted on to detect it or to resolve it.